Les couleurs. Noir, blanc, bleu, rouge, jaune, vert, rose, violet, gris, orange, marron. Let's repeat these colors one more time. Noir, blanc, bleu, rouge, jaune. Note that we don't say jaune, we say jaune, so I highlighted the O to make it sound really like a closed O, jaune, vert, rose, same here, rose, not rose, violet, gris, orange, marron. Now there are a couple of questions we need to ask ourselves. The first one is, what do we use colors for? Well, the answer is simple. We use colors to describe the color of something. Now, instead of something, we're going to use the proper grammatical term, which is noun. So we use colors, word of colors, to describe the color of a noun. The next question is, what is a word that describes a noun called? Now, if you didn't know, this is called an adjective. So this is what we're going to learn today, is how to use adjectives of color in French. You must remember the verb être from last lesson. It goes like this. And to describe things, we should simply need to add the color. Now, that would be great if it was just that. Well, it's almost that, but we'll see that there are a couple of differences in French. So we have our verb être and we have our colors. What we need now are nouns that we want to describe. So, le chat. We need to add the verb être to le chat. We know it's il, so le chat est, the cat is. La pomme is a feminine word, therefore elle, so the apple is, la pomme est. The mouse, la souris, same here, elle est. If we have more than one cat, les chats is going to be il with an S. Sont. Les pommes sont. Les souris sont. Now, we should have everything by now. That's not the only thing that we need to remember in French. We could leave it at that and that would be fantastic. But let's have a look at these examples. Le chat est noir. The cat is black. No problem. But here we have les chats sont noirs. The cats are black, and we notice that we've got an extra S at the end of noir. Think about why that might be. We carry on and we have la pomme est verte with an extra I at the end of verte or vert. Les pommes sont vertes, we've got I and S. La souris est blanche, we've got an H and an E at the end of the color blanc. And then we've got les souris sont blanches, we've got E, an S and an extra H. Now, what we need to remember is that in French, this is what happens. The adjective of color agrees with the noun it describes. So what it means is that the color will match the noun in gender and number, which means that if the noun is masculine, the adjective will have to be masculine. If the noun is plural, the adjective will have to be plural. Masculine, plural, the adjective will have to be masculine, plural, feminine, plural, exactly. You've got the idea. What I normally say is that the adjective itself doesn't have a personality, and it has to match the number and the gender of the adjective. So we'll see what it looks like in practice with all the different colors. So we've got the masculine singular form, which is the form that is neutral before anything is done to it. So it's the form you would find in a French dictionary. And so let's see what happens in the feminine. So noir becomes noir. We add an E, but we don't say it. We just need to remember to write it, however. Blanc is a bit different. We add an E, but we also add an H because we need to pronounce it as blanche. It would be strange to say blanche. So we say blanche. So that's just one that you need to remember. Bleu becomes bleu. Rouge stays as rouge. Why? Because there's already an E in the masculine form. Jaune is the same. Vert becomes verte, and I've added a little T in red just to emphasize the pronunciation. The E activates the T sound. So from vert we go to verte, and that's very important to pronounce it to show that you're using the feminine form. Rose will stay as rose. Violet will become violette for similar reasons as blanche, because we need to make it sound different and sound as if it's the feminine form. Gris becomes grise. The S is activated and turned into a Z sound. So we go from gris to grise in the feminine. And orange, it stays the same, and marron stays the same. Why? Because these two never change. Now let's have a look at the plural form. All we have to do is to add an S where there isn't already one. So you notice that in both masculine and feminine, all that happens is an extra S, just to show it's plural. And again, this S is silent. So noir in the plural form sounds like noir, but you notice that it sounds exactly the same as the singular. In fact, if I look at noir, if I say it in masculine singular, I say noir, feminine, noir, plural, noir, and feminine plural, noir. So these are silent letters. Just note that for gris, we do not add an extra S because there's already one. So to summarize, in the feminine form, I add an E if there isn't already one, except for blanche and violette, which have extra letters. And for the plural, I simply add an S if there isn't already one. And we notice that orange and marron never change, whether it's in the feminine or if it's in the plural form. So these two are easy to use because you never have to worry about adding extra letters to those. Let's practice. I would like you to complete this little translation task. But for that, I'm going to give you some vocabulary. So you have these words: la table, le ballon, la porte, le pull, la fleur. Remember that the word for the will tell you whether they are masculine or feminine. And then, because you've just learned those, the list of colors in masculine, feminine, plural. So what you need to do now is to do the translation. So you can pause the video, complete the task in writing if you need to, or you might just want to do it in your head and check the answers as we go along. But if you want to pause the video, do it now because I'm going to check. C'est parti. So the tables are grey. So we need the word for table, la table, and because it's more than one, I'm going to put les tables, and then we need the word for are, which are sont, and we're going to end up with les tables sont grises. Why es? Because we know the word table is feminine, but there's more than one, so I'm going to add an e and an s. Now for the flower, the word flower is feminine, la fleur, and I need to look at my list and look for the color white, which is blanc. Blanc, but it's feminine, so I'm going to put blanche. I'm not going to add an extra s because there's only one flower. Let's go for the door is blue, la porte est bleue, I add an extra e. The balls are yellow. Now we've got ballon, which is a masculine word, but there's more than one. So I'm going to need the plural form of the color, so add an s. The jumpers are orange. Remember about orange, that's going to be an easy one. We've got the jumpers in the plural, so les pulls, and then the word for are, sont, and then orange, no s because this one never changes. And finally, the flowers are red, les fleurs, feminine, sont rouge, it's just an s. We don't need an extra e because there's already one in the masculine. There is one last thing we need to remember about French adjectives, is the word order. So we've seen sentences like this one, le chat est noir, and we notice there's absolutely no difference between French and English. But if we take a phrase like this one, that could be, for example, the beginning of a sentence, there is no verb, it's just the article, the color, and the noun. It should go like this: le noir chat. Unfortunately, in French, we have to remember to put the color at the end or the noun before the color. So we have to swap them round. For example, des pommes vertes, green apples. In English, we put the color first and the noun after. In French, it's the other way around. Une porte rose, a pink door, un pull jaune, a yellow jumper, des fleurs bleues, blue flowers. But of course we could say le chat noir est dans le jardin. We can still use the verb être, but in the first bit of the sentence we have three elements and we've got to know what the correct order is. So I've done a little summary of the use of adjectives in French. This will be available in the handout that you can download from my website. But just to summarize, remember that adjectives must agree with the name they describe. It means that they have to copy their gender and number, so masculine, feminine, singular or plural. They have to match. Remember, adjectives have no personality of their own, so they have to copy the noun. Then you've got to remember what to add to an adjective to make it look either feminine or plural. In the masculine, you don't add anything. In the feminine, you add an E if there isn't already one. Remember blanche and violette for the extra letters. For the plural, we add an S unless there's already one. And for orange and marron, they are great because they never change. In fact, the grammatical term for this is invariable, they're invariable. And then finally, most adjectives are usually placed after what they describe. It's usually the case, but you'll see in future lessons that it's not necessarily always the case. But that's for another time. Félicitations, you've completed lesson 5. Don't forget to download the handout from my website if you want to practice your vocabulary. Also, it would be an idea to start compiling a list of words from your environment and to start describing them using colors. That's a good little tip for you. But for now, all I have to say is au revoir et à bientôt for lesson 6.